Hey guys, so get this. According to the lore, everybody talks out their ass.
Part 2, Part A, the Castiel effect. So we've already briefly discussed the bull hockey about ratings, but there are some elements that influence. As I've said in Part 1, expecting disenchanted viewers to hump promos religiously is a fool's errand, but to some extent, character loyalties prevent tune-out. This is going to be a two-part part. The topic got so droningly long, I've decided to break it down into the Castiel effect and the Destiel effect, seeing as there's also the common myth that Destiel is 1% of the viewership. Both sides are kind of blowing hot steam up asses with the whole higher or lower ratings. Go back to Part 1 if you want to see me debunking gross numbers. There does not need to be a 2 million viewership spike. If a character features in an episode, that just isn't how it works. Instead, we're going to be bulking aggregates and working with the results. That said, one side is a little bit more correct than the other, and we're going to express that. Now, that said, I'm going to be putting up two of the most recent complete seasons here, seasons 11 and 12. Given at any point, you are free to pause and check my math. You can pull up these resources yourself off of the Nielson ratings. I do believe the Supernatural Wiki also hosts the same data. We're going to divide the Castiel EPs and the non-Castiel EPs out, run bulk aggregates like I suggested in the previous videos, and then determine by result the effect as it stands. Now, in season 11, to begin, Castiel's bulk episodes retain 0.073 million viewers by average, or translates to, in most likely presentation with the prior discussion of how ratings work, 73,000 less people tuning out before the episode is over or losing interest per average. With an average viewer base in the season of 2.27 million viewers, that translates to Castiel-free episodes by nature performing 3.22% better than averages, and that's just in this season. And if you want to imply it's that he happens to be in opening and ending episodes, culling both from the formula leaves us with 2.8, and guess what? That's still above averages. Not much, but it is. And of course, this requires deletionist thinking and presuming that Castiel fans don't expect him in a finale. Let's move on to season 12. We still have a 0.07 margin of error between them. With an average viewership of 1.675 million, let's do some math. That's a 0.239287 difference. With percentages, we'll round up to 0.24 since it's right on the cusp. 4.16% difference, that's right. Episodes that feature Castiel solidly retain viewership 4% plus more soundly. Here's where the fandom goes, but that's just 4%. We're the other 96%, and that's not how that works. See, the thing is, that's 4% that tune out and tune back in when they know their favorite is around. That's the forward-facing manifestation. The fact of it is, episodes are, by aggregate, still positively impacted with base viewership, preventing tune-out for those that are watching. How much more violent is the impact when they know they'll never see him again? 1.675 million, 4.16%. That's again 69,680 viewers. Supernatural Season 11 was a 2.27 million average. Season 12 was a 1.675 million average. That's a loss of 595,000 core viewers, or a 26% viewership loss. Bibro fans will scream it's people being tired of Castiel, but that simply isn't the fact. Here, have a chart and another chart. I have entire videos dedicated to intricate reasons the ratings have tanked. Nothing to do with Castiel. But most interestingly, despite the drop in viewership, 73,000 were accounted for in non-cast dropouts by average in 11, and 69,680 in 12. That's only a 3,320 viewer difference compared to the 595,000 in core viewership. That's only a 4% viewership loss as opposed to 26% viewership loss, meaning on average, Castiel's fans are at this point 6 times as dedicated and enduring as well. Even Castiel episode exclusives raise aggregates 3 to 4% without any way to gauge those who casually watch through happy to just see him when he shows up, but ready to leave by virtue of him being permanently disappeared. In fact, here, have a chart. An example, the bulk of my friends watch all episodes with or without Castiel, meaning they reflect neither positively nor negatively towards these numbers, but a good bulk of them would leave. Now, this is purely based on my experience, if we ignore the chart, but I am talking my experience here. But I run an open door policy room on a major chat network for Supernatural fans. I could easily gauge about 20% of the people I know as loyal viewers to permanently leave if Castiel did, because otherwise the show has beaten out its course. And another 20 to 30% have just kind of gotten to the point where they'll boredly tune in, because most of the people I know are long tired of it. My spouse is not a Destiel fan. She hates most of the fandom. She's not a Castiel loyalist, but she's outright muttered about quitting watching if they take him out because it's the same brother dual jerk. That's right, folks. An anti-Destiel, neutral to Castiel person would also get bored and stop watching, just like we see in the chart. The surface tune-out is just a horrible piece of this puzzle. I'm going to put this in a way that even tiny peonic brains can handle. At a core, this means by average 1/25 of the viewership absolutely tunes out if they don't see Cass in the episode and tries again. Other fans of him still endure and still enjoy the show, but then we look at the actual digital trends and, those graphs, those charts and trends that a small sect routinely yells, "We debunked it," without any actual proof beyond, maybe it's all negative mentions or result sweatshopping. And I've taken time to corroborate and parallel to multiple other sources, including ratings themselves, timelines, and I don't know, their subscriptions and followers in proportion. Misha Collins, 2.89 million. Jensen Ackles, 2.39 million. And until Jarpad publicly mocked his own fans' upset, he had almost 500,000 lower than Jensen, at which point, magically and pretty much overnight, he swelled to 2.95 million at an increase of about 1 million, mostly blank-faced, never but once tweeted accounts. But hey, maybe they're not all sock accounts. The fact that the same interview period released at the same time on the same channel, having Jared at 67,000 views, or Jensen at 67,000 views, and Jared at 15,000 is nothing, right? Or other situations, or the same interview upload period, Jensen has 5,000, Misha has 4,000, and Jared has 1,600. I mean, that's just really, really inconvenient to admit. It's inconvenient to admit on every media ever, except in those where someone can one-time spam sock accounts, and anything that requires recurring action, Jared kind of flatlines. It's inconvenient to admit that this is the most likely probable cause on why Jensen now makes 50,000 more per episode than Jared, or an average of 1.15 million more per year. They are aware that unfortunately Jared and Sam's popularity has waned, as influenced by all of these charts that you guys want to try to find 10,000 different fluke explanations for. The difference in Misha and Jensen on Twitter is about a 20% divide in Misha's favor, which matches current digital trends. That's a 20% loyalty viewership, or at a 20 million rating, a likely loss of about 400,000 core viewers on permanent removal, rather than the risk of 4% flux per episode. And again, I'm going to put up a chart here that also closely matches this concept on Tumblr. And yes, it sucks. And yes, it's wrong. And it's mostly due to Sam being pushed back burner for several years, which they're trying to fix now. And they're still, for some reason, getting hit with resistance by his fans. But all of this boils down to a core of Castiel is incredibly popular and incredibly important. Now, as I've said, Jensen makes about 175,000 per episode in season 13, and Jared makes 125,000 per episode per their last disclosure. Misha's most recent report is unavailable. An original seasons before being a regular put him on 20,000 per episode. Now, minding a main member does increase, but this is the only hard figure we have to work with. And of course, if people want to talk out both sides of their mouth and say he isn't a lead, that's the best you're going to have. Now, a cheap revenue yield on an ad view is about 10 cents per viewer. We generally estimate 4 episodes per break and 4 breaks if we roll low. I'm going to be going on straight numbers, and these likely yield higher, but gives you an estimate of Castiel's 69,680 average viewer increase per 11 episodes last year. At 4.4, that's 1,263,680 revenue per year, versus what we can only calculate with the 20% viewership by ad revenue alone, not including swag. Misha Collins yields a raw profit exclusively calculable to him of $1 million after paying off his own yearly salary, just off of the specific revenue and not core viewership that was seen in the chart. Minding that his merch now sells as part of Team Free Will and accounts for a major portion of sales, we're not even going to get into factoring the raw yield that comes off of him there. And screech all they want, but it sells well. My local malls mostly stopped carrying Sam swag unless it was something attached to Dean, like a blanket or a poster with both or all 3 of them. Meaning if I want to support my local economy, I have to order online, ship to store, and pay there. Yes, what Castiel swag is kind of available sells better enough that Sam in some regions, they just don't carry in comparison. And it sucks because it makes balancing my collection hell. I even went so far as to ask, like, hey, do you guys have any Sam stuff? I wanted to get the plushies. I wanted to get the this. I wanted to get the that. And they just didn't have it. I did finally find one store in a dying mall called Brookwood, which is some ways out from me. One Books A Million actually carried equal Sam swag in proportion, and needless to say, my collection is now balanced without doing gymnastics of digital ordering. When I asked at the other malls, I got, they pretty much stopped sending us Sam swag, like season 10. And I was like, holy crap. And yeah, that's a problem. Now, again, raw ad yield rounded down to the lowest likely number pays not only likely his own salary for the year, but more than 3 full days of work for Jensen and Jared together on its own footing. The number is likely raised another 30% at 13 cents per ad view, but we're not going to split hairs, and that's a low yield season, but yet on a 4th day of main character filming. And of course, this is minimalist per episode boost, not trending fan loyalty, which also brings us to, all math from previously espoused and supported numbers aside, a raw ad-based series boost of up to 14,851,200 annually by average. Only 6,900,000 of which have to go toward Jared and Jensen's salary. Or to put it into scale, Supernatural episodes range from 2 to 3 million to produce, airing with all of their might towards 2. That's 46 million a season. By nature, Misha's ad value actually powers up to 31.5% of raw production capability and costs. We'll even put it on the raw end and pretend every episode runs 3 million. In this scenario, Misha yields 21.46% of revenue, valued at more than 1/5 of the season's production costs. We can pretend at a core that Jensen and Jared in the mutated world scope, where only the 95-point-something% has been, common sense talked into oblivion already, but, that's all at their disposal to cover the entire production on their own. And sure, they can, but then the CW takes overhead and replaces it with a more popular show. Sorry, that's not counting promos, traveling, conventions, and everything else that their bill needs to float. And that's not minding the numbers, all kinds of skewed for the logics and basic media knowledge talked previously. Castiel earns the show roughly 15 million on active views alone. How much does the next person shrieking about it earn? And furthermore, how much more does his swag earn it? Why does Castiel stay, aside from being an awesome character? Because he is popular and does draw money. Misha Collins, by ad revenue alone, yields the show in a year more than most of us will make in our lifetime, some of you more in a single episode. And again, then there's the swag. A disclaimer, it's worth noting that Misha's net worth has climbed to $2 million, with Jared at $5 million and Jensen at $10 million. Minding a shorter run on the show, the fact that he's paid out half to two-fifths of the number of episodes without much featuring abroad, it's very reasonable to assume that Misha's payment has scaled up close to the range of his co-stars. Otherwise, his net worth, based on the 20,000 number, would literally add up to his Supernatural show ratings being every penny he's ever earned, which is, of course, lunacy, since he has other jobs, such as 34 non-Supernatural affiliated movies or series, to be precise. And at that rate of pay, there's at least 1 million missing, not counting non-film jobs. Misha Collins has not disclosed his current payment rate or at what point it increased, but considered his love of travel and large venues and other existing discrepancies, at some point his pay rate is bolstered closer to a lead star. Period. No tinfoil hats needed, just Occam's razor. Haters keep hating. Supernatural will keep banking on Misha. Oh yeah, and a late debunk discussed but possibly missed that Jared is the highest paid actor on Roll thing went out years ago. Like I said, Jensen makes $50,000 more than him per episode and an extra $1.15 million per year. I'm already drowning in charts and graphs and references. You're sitting on the largest information hub in the world. I invite you to look it up. Variety, TV Guide, and I think at one point Forbes even mentioned it, but that last one I'm less than certain on. While money doesn't make everything, I'm tired of seeing this several-year-old statistic slung around like it's still in effect. It isn't, and it hasn't been for years. Even if you want to take the most tinfoil hat Illuminati conspiracy, Misha's presence on set pays for a minimum of one pricey episode while costing a fraction of it. If you want to touch base with Planet Earth for a moment, his earnings can yield up to a third of the show's baseline, pre-promo, etc. production costs again, while still being a fraction of it. Either way, he still earns his keep, and there is zero reason for them to put him away. The number of things for this is likely in the middle, rounding down to the lowest possible ad revenue and minimizing half of his loyalty base, likely warranting a production value estimate somewhere like 10% of all filming costs covered by his presence, especially minding his clearly main character increase but undisclosed pay rate to the minded. If you want a reasonable lowball without having to smoke the dreamer pipe. But that's literally me breaking numbers to give you that. That's literally denying what's right there. The 20% is the most likely number, meaning that leaves 80% to Jared and Jensen, 40% to each of them while starring in double of the episodes. Go figure, equal pull for the placement they choose to give him. Jared and Jensen can pull the rest, and the raw concept of the show as a whole funds itself on overhead to the channel, promos, travel, and miscellaneous expenses. In 2015, for example, season 11, CW pulled a revenue of $390 million total. They produced 12 shows that year. Of that, the raw cost of Supernatural was roughly $60 million. Putting that on average, that's $690 million expenses, or almost double their actual income, meaning they had to pull triple from the shows, meaning all that overhead you'd imagine, pretending 96 of it is all J2? Sure. We'll say $129.6 million. Pretending, of course, we don't have promos, travel, and more expenses to cover, venues, all millions of dollars, and every show, if it earned an average of that yield, $1.55 billion from each show went back to the network, which would have flipped them $400 million more into the positive. But those 12 shows have expenses, and not all performed as well, several of which were canceled for lack of yield, which is putting us back into the pit that we see. And if you think $33 million covers everything those shows need, you're mistaken. Enter Misha Collins, an accessory budget, even if it's all covered. And we've already covered that absolute bull hockey 96.4, but even painting it in that worldview, you're still wrong. And he's still needed. Who would have thought a monetized society was run by actual money instead of, I don't know what the Tin Hatters think is running this? The numbers pan out. The conspiracies don't. Intelligent Shipper. Signing off.